I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game, not a game.
If you're looking for the best basketball talk in the universe, you just found it. This is Deep Hoops, where fans are the host. Tim Brayboy, Troy Ramel Royal, and me, your point guard, Jehudi. We're talking basketball, all basketball, and nothing but basketball. So sit back and enjoy the best basketball talk in the podcast universe. This is Deep Hoops.
Well, this is another playoff edition of Deep Hoops. I am the minister.
I am Tim.
And I'm Rob, the straw that stirs the drink.
And we welcome you to our Deep Hoops podcast, where we're passionate fans talking about the game that we love. And we're in the midst of maybe, I don't want to get involved with hyperbole, but maybe one of the best playoffs from beginning to this point that I can remember in a long, long time. All right, without hyperbole, I don't want to say ever, but this has been a great playoffs. And, you know, some of the things as we do a recap of what's been going on in the playoffs that we would like to talk about, let me just say this. LeBron. I mean, you know, he called himself, he's the self-proclaimed king, James. Has he finally entered the royal court? I mean, is he playing like royalty for the first time ever? I mean, really royalty. He was playing like maybe the prince, you know, maybe like
court jester.
He wasn't court jester, but maybe like the prince. But now he's literally playing like the king. Ron, you're a LeBron lover.
I'm not a LeBron.
You a LeBron lover.
Wait a minute. I'm not a LeBron
You're a
lover.
LeBron lover.
I'm just I can look at everything as three-dimensional. You all look at it. I hate LeBron.
You 3D. All right, 3D Tim. But we come back to you, 3D Tim. Rob, what do you think? Is LeBron finally playing like the royal person that he's self-proclaimed?
Those who know me and know me well, I'm one of the biggest LeBron haters out there. Off the court, I love him. On the court, I despise him. But I tell you this, he has reached that point where he is playing and living up to the royalty. To me, if I had a vote in the MVP prior to the playoffs, I was voting for LeBron. Simply, he's had two teams this year. Neither team looked like they were going to do anything once they get to the playoffs. But even with the two teams, he's still only one game short of a win than last season. And clearly last season's team was a much better team. And now watching him in the playoffs, hitting clutch shots, and that was his Achilles heel for me. I never thought he was clutch. And I've seen a couple of moments, and there was moments in the regular season where he's displayed some clutch. But even me, Rob, the number one LeBron hater, has to acknowledge that LeBron is bringing it these playoffs.
So I just want to make sure, I want to cover something. You're admitting that you're the number one LeBron hater.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to get that on camera, man.
Absolutely.
And we got that on Facebook Live as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I can own it.
All right, so Tim, being a LeBron lover, maybe you. Let me say, no, come on, man. Let's be honest. You are. But would you say that he's always been royal, or has he reached a high level of royalty now?
His game has evolved as he has evolved. Now, there's not a defense that can stop him. He can kind of stop himself when he's not engaged, when he's tired or what have you. But when he's engaged and when he's ready to go, there's not a defense that can stop him. Back in the day, the great Popovich defense let him shoot the jumper. Well, he'll take that jumper and he'll knock it down. He hit 8 of the most ridiculous fall-away jumpers in Game 2 Thursday night that I've ever seen. One-legged, no-legged, off the wrong foot, nothing but bottom, wet. So, and last night, he got a full head of steam, 94 feet, which was a great decision by Tyronn Lue, who I don't like as a coach, but he made a great...
One of the best coaching decisions. We're not experts, but we're passionate fans. From a fan perspective, that was one of the best coaching decisions I've seen in this playoffs.
I agree. Tyronn Lue is running circles around Dwayne Casey. I've never seen a team that has shot basically 50, 40, 90. 50% from the field, 40% from the three, 90% from the three-point line, and they look totally outclassed.
Wait a minute. Not 90 from the free throw line.
From the free throw, 50, 40, 90.
Right, okay.
50, 40, and then
Right.
90 from the free throw line. They look, it's like two totally different teams. And Cleveland is the weaker team. So I don't think there's any way to stop LeBron. I think the bigger question is now, he's 7 wins in. Does he get to 16 wins in these playoffs? And if he gets to 16 wins, he's a 4-time regular season MVP. He will be a 4-time, most likely, unless something incredibly crazy happens, a 4-time Finals MVP. Where do you rank him? Where does he rank? He bumps up and he shoots up against a lot of great
Well,
players.
I mean, let's say what we said before the show started. We were talking about the Mount Rushmore. You were saying that he's on your Mount Rushmore. I'm saying that he's not quite on my Mount Rushmore, but the person that you had on your Mount Rushmore, why don't you give your Mount Rushmore?
Well, again, my Mount Rushmore would be Jabbar, Magic, Bird, and Jordan with Kobe Bryant on deck. And my thing is this: even if you felt that Larry Bird doesn't deserve that, then Kobe is there. And
Kobe's on mine.
LeBron hasn't surpassed Kobe in my estimation.
But
He has
the question is, for kicks and giggles, if they get to 16 wins this playoffs and he wins this 4th championship, I think he passed.
Why would he pass Kobe when Kobe's 5-2 in championship?
Because I think
And he's also 30,000 points scored.
I think dragging this team.
Well, wait a minute. Kobe
Kobe drug a bad team
to 3 finals and 2 titles.
But I don't think LeBron doesn't have anybody as good as Paul Gasol. Kevin Love isn't as good as Paul Gasol.
Kevin Love is a Hall of Famer.
Paul Gasol is a Hall of Famer.
So don't say
But
he's not
no.
as good. He's a Hall of Famer.
But wait a minute. Hold up. Paul Gasol at the time was a much better player than Kevin Love is now.
He was a smarter player. He probably doesn't score as much as Kevin.
No, they'll score around the same amount of points. But Gasol was a better player.
So, I mean, put some respect on Kobe's name, man. Put some respect on it.
I would definitely say right now, LeBron is behind Kobe. But, for kicks and giggles, if they win a championship this year, then he bumps a few people off the list. He always, to me, he dusted Bird 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, Bird is off the list.
Bird is off the list.
I don't think so.
Bird is off the list.
I don't think so.
Okay, so
but you know what? We're on Facebook Live. We're on Facebook Live. Is Bird on your Mount Rushmore, LeBron, or Kobe? Or name your Mount Rushmore. Exactly. Name your Mount Rushmore.
I think the problem.
Talk back.
The problem with Bird is Bird only had 8 full seasons of great play. 8. And
out of
it's
what?
back
12
out of
seasons?
12 seasons. LeBron is in his
75%.
50th. LeBron is in his 15th season and looks better than ever. So that's why.
Yeah, in a watered down league where you can't hand check.
Okay, but you got to play.
Bird probably doesn't have back injury if he plays now. He probably.
If I had wings, I could fly. Come on, now, come on, man.
If was a 5th, we'd all be drunk.
That's the bottle.
All right, so let's move on. The playoffs are going on, and there's a lot of things going on in the playoffs. One thing I want to hit on, because we're about to go into coaches, and we're going to go deep into coaching with the coaching carousel. And don't hit on it too much because it's going to be my closing comments. But really, Brad Stevens, are we watching maybe the greatest, the beginnings of the greatest coach ever? I mean, that's hyperbole, a bit of hyperbole. But what he's doing with the team that lost Gordon at the beginning of the season, the first game, Kyrie at the end of the season, and didn't have him in the playoffs, and it's just next man up, and everyone is coming prepared.
I think the biggest thing this was the perfect matchup for Brad Stevens. For Brad Stevens. You had an inexperienced coach in Brett Brown, who he's running circles like a whole lapse around Brett Brown as far as coaching. And you had an inexperienced team in the Sixers, which realistically, we were all hyping them up that they were going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. But cutting their teeth against the Heat, they were probably happy to get past the Heat. And they didn't understand the next level that you was going to have to get to play a better veteran team with better coaching in Boston. So, because that last 2-3 minutes of that game was horrific. They gave the game to Boston. Boston was like, we'll let you win this game. You know, it'd be 2-1. We'll win tomorrow, Tuesday, whenever game 4 is. And Philly was like, no, we're going to throw it to you. We're just going to let you win it. 3 easy, not even forced turnovers. It was just like bad passes, just basic AAU 8-year-old passes that they couldn't make the basic pass. And that comes with, you got to get your heart broken. That's how the NBA has always been. You got to get your heart broken, because if you get your heart broken, it makes you like, I want to get in the gym and work on my game. And that's what Philly needs
And I
to
think
do.
Philly has been exposed. They need more athleticism. They need someone that can do 3 and D, but that's athletic. I mean, and there's a number of people that we could talk about that can come in there. I want to ask you, with this happening, I think you and I were both saying Philly doesn't need LeBron if LeBron decides to leave. With what's going on with Philly right now, I have my reasons for saying that they don't need LeBron. Do you still feel the same way? And if so, why?
Yeah, I don't think they need LeBron. I have a better person for their team, but I just want to address the Brad Stevens. And please, for our Christian Deep Hoop fans, please walk with me when I say this, and I say this with the utmost respect. But Brad Stevens is the Joel Osteen of coaches in the NBA right now. You know, Joel Osteen is the pastor that you go to, and he says, how you feeling? Doc, I'm pastor, I got a 102-degree temperature, been stuck in bed for 2 days. And he'll tap me on the shoulder and say, look here, Tim, at least it's not 103 degrees. And next thing you know, you're feeling good about yourself because of the motivation and the encouragement, and that's Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens' encouragement and motivation to his players is through the roof. I don't think there's another coach in the game as we speak today that can get the results out of this group as he's getting.
Right, and I know. Okay.
Hear me out. The first round against Milwaukee had the best player. You come into the Philly, who's coming off a tremendous winning streak, beating Miami rather easily, and they may even have the best 2 players on the court, and he's running circles. Not only in the coach, but his players are running circles on them, and it all stems back to Brad Stevens. It's just having his guys prepared. The talent is working itself. The players is executing what he's putting in place, and regardless to the name on the back of the jersey, and I guarantee you the 3 of us get into the game and nothing changes. And I think one of the first moves he made when he came to Boston was probably went and sat down with Bill Belichick, because it is a system that is in place that the next man up can walk in or step in and fulfill a job. And it's happening.
And I was going to stop you because you were saying that he's a great motivation person and Joel Osteen. I get all of that. That's an aspect of it. But I didn't want to diminish what he does in preparation.
Yes.
And having those guys prepared.
Yes.
So it's motivation, but you know what? It is truly next man up. And when Kyrie Irving went down, he said, Rozier, you're going to get those same shots. I'm going to make sure you get those same shots.
Let me tell you, and I'll get back to your Philly question. Terry Rozier, if Kyrie Irving comes back next season and misses 20 games, he won't be a Boston Celtic the following year. Because when the 2 of their contracts come up, Rozier's going to get the contract. And Kyrie Irving is going to go.
Well, I think a lot of that is that Rozier's going to be a whole lot cheaper.
It'll be cheaper, he's younger, and Kyrie is injury prone.
Why are you talking to him now? He's stirring the drink.
No,
He's
I'm going to entertain him. Come on.
Back to your point with Philly. No, I don't want to see LeBron goes there. I think that Ben Simmons has the ability to be LeBron light. I think what they really need, you mentioned a 3-and-D kind of guy, and that one person is, and we can start it off. Who says no? The Laker pick, Fultz, Covington to the Spurs for Kawhi Leonard. You put Kawhi Leonard over there between Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, and re-sign Redick for 1 year.
What's the
price.
And I'm sorry. Rod just introduced a new segment that we were going to introduce later, but Rod just couldn't help it. He just went out there with it. Who says no? So this is Rod's first. Who says no? Give me the
Who
Give me
says
the
no?
particulars.
Philly offers the Laker pick.
Which is what? Number 10 right now.
Right,
It's
number
before
10.
the lottery.
Number 10 pick in this year's draft. Fultz, the number 1 pick from last year, and Covington to San Antonio for Kawhi Leonard. Who says no?
That's interesting. All right, what other offers is now, okay, if I'm Philly, am I getting a quasi-guarantee that Kawhi is going to re-sign there?
Well, I mean, that's up to you to get that from him and know that beforehand. But if you're feeling confident that Kawhi Leonard could be the missing piece to get you to the championship, or
no one
elevate
says no
you,
on that.
Who says no?
No one says no.
No one says no.
No
I think
one says no.
it's a fair deal because if I'm San Antonio, I'm getting a number 1 pick from last year. I'm getting a top 10 pick from this year.
And you know they
and
can
I'm
pick.
getting because they don't normally miss on
They
their
don't miss.
picks. And I'm getting Covington, who's a rugged, a 3-and-D light defender, Kawhi light.
Right.
Who's
right.
only going to get better.
Who's only
Believe it
gonna
or
get
not.
better.
And probably will be better in a Popovich type system.
Right.
Even if he doesn't return, because I'm sure whoever would replace Pop if he doesn't come
Well,
back.
he's
to
in
the
a
bench
pop light system
would
right
be-
now.
Yeah,
With Brett Brown.
Right. Would have a similar system to Pop.
So I think it would be no one would hang up. Then it would come to San Antonio. Do you breathe hard? Then I would have to call Kawhi's people and Kawhi and say, can we amend this? Can we get this done? Can I sign you to a supermax deal that's for the 5-year extension for $219 million? If he says no, then I breathe hard and I make the deal.
Make the deal. You got to make that deal. Before we get back to who says no, because I love that segment, let's just run through the coaching carousel. And starting with, and Rob, I got to go to you first again. Sorry, Tim, but it's your team, Rob. The Knicks decided that they were going to go with Fizdale. Solid coach, 1 year and 8 games, of a career of head coaching. I feel that they should have gone with Mark Jackson, personally. And we're going to have a Mark Jackson point in a few minutes. But what are your thoughts about Fizdale running the helm, being at the helm of your team, the Knicks?
Actually, I was hoping for Mark Jackson.
Right.
That was my first choice. Dave Fizdale was my second choice. I think that Dave Fizdale has an opportunity to be one of the next up-and-coming coaches in this league. Of course, you do have to have some talent to go along with it, but I think Dave Fizdale is someone who, if he's surrounded with some decent talent, could be a little bit successful in New York. And hopefully, with this signing, New York is able to make some moves in the offseason. What they're going to be able to do, I'm not sure. They might have $25 to $28 million of cap space when it's all said and done, with a couple of people opting out. But it can't stop here for New York. I love the hiring. I think Fizdale will bring culture or change the culture. And I think that he's young where he'll be able to relate to players. And I think the players is going to genuinely like him. Most players around the league did like him or do like him. He did
Except for Gasol.
Right, he did have the run-in with Gasol. But, when you got rid of Zach Randolph, you got rid of Tony Allen, that grit and grind that Memphis had was only down to Marc Gasol. So I guess he wanted to change the way they played, and Gasol I guess he didn't like it. And believe it or not, Gasol's been declining, but I guess he's still their number 1 player, and management sided with the player.
Bad decision. Bad decision. Tim, what do you think about Fizdale going to the Knicks?
Again, I agree with both of you guys. I would have liked to see Mark Jackson, but Fizdale, that's a good fallback option. If you're not going to go with Mark, it's a good fallback option. The bigger question is, okay, here in Atlanta, Budenholzer mutually parted with the Hawks. He quit. Basically, he quit. They didn't want him back because they're going on a rebuilding project. Where does he go? Does he go to Milwaukee? Because he wanted to go to New York or Phoenix or Milwaukee, but New York and Phoenix already hired.
We'll talk about Phoenix in a minute, but Milwaukee, there's going to be what's up with Orlando?
Or you got Milwaukee and Orlando. Those are and Charlotte.
In Charlotte. In Charlotte and Atlanta, but he's not going back to Atlanta. So in Charlotte, I think, who knows what Mitch Kupchak is going to do, but I think it's going to be probably Stackhouse, a North Carolina alum, and you'll have North Carolina ownership, North Carolina general manager, North Carolina coach. So I don't know. What do you think? Where do you think Budenholzer goes? Is he just become an announcer and an analyst for a season?
I wouldn't be surprised if he finds himself without a job for a year, or without a coaching job for a year. The only spot that I can see him going is if maybe Toronto opens up. I thought Milwaukee had Monty Williams already in place. Does he trump Monty Williams? Maybe so. I mean, he's shown he can coach when he has the talent around him. But if the Raptors get swept and management feels like we gave you the players and you were supposed to go deeper and they decided to part ways with him, I can see him going there.
Now, you talked about Toronto. Dwayne Casey is in a pickle because it's one thing to get swept. Okay, it happens one year. But you've gotten beat. If Cleveland wins this next game, they would have beaten Toronto with Casey with the same cast of characters 10 straight times. Game 5 and Game 6 in 2016, a sweep in 2017, and a sweep in 2018.
And you were the number one seed.
And you were the number one seed. You were the higher seed both times. So 2 out of the 3 times. So at some point, either Casey goes or either the general manager.
Sorry, whatever his name is.
Someone has to go. There's no way I can see him come back.
About it. They're both up for Coach of the Year and Executive of the Year. And one of them can go.
Yeah, one of them maybe get blown out.
That's interesting, but let's just keep it moving very quickly with coaches because there's a bunch of things that we want to talk about. Very quickly with coaches. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we heard about the passing of Popovich's wife. Do you see Popovich coming back? I mean, and I know I hate dealing in that speculation where we have nothing, but do you see Popovich coming back? I mean, with the Kawhi stuff going on, with his wife being, losing his wife, with the guy on the bench from Europe that has, that he's handpicked as possibly his replacement. Do you see him coming back to this?
Actually, I do see him coming back. And let me tell you why. About 3, if not 4, of his assistant coaches has all interviewed for jobs elsewhere. I mean, Becky Hammonds is the latest to interview for Milwaukee. I would say it's 3 of them that went. I can't think of the guy.
The guy from Italy. That's his.
Montessori.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's interviewed, and
the brother.
Yeah. Udoka.
Udoka.
Right.
Yeah.
Neil Long's.
Right. Exactly.
Son's father.
Yes.
Baby daddy.
Yes.
Well, I didn't want to say baby daddy, but
Well,
yeah,
that's
baby
what you were
daddy.
trying to say. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he also interviewed. So, you would think the replacement would be one of them. But, so that's lead me to think that he's going to come back for one more year.
That may be Popovich saying, go out there and let them know that you're worth something by showing other teams are interested in you so that when I step down, they know that they don't need to go on a search. They need to just pop you for the person to replace me.
Right.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to retire based on that.
Right. I find it hard because it was always, remember, in New England with the Patriots football, it's the Patriot way.
Right.
In San Antonio, it's the Spurs way. But now it's cracks and not small cracks. This is a big crack.
Seismic cracks. Yeah.
Crack in the armor because Duncan is gone, David Robinson is gone, Avery Johnson is gone, Steven Jackson, all the foundation, Parker and Ginobili on their way out the door, and Kawhi was supposed to be the next player, to carry the throne, the captain like Derek Jeter in baseball or what have you. But he doesn't seem to want to be there. Whether it's him on his own or his people. I read the ESPN article a couple of days ago. Very interesting article. Guys, if you haven't read it, you might want to take a look at it. But it's something going on. This isn't a basic run-of-the-mill situation. This is very complex where both sides have done a lot of damage. And will one, Popovich, or two, Kawhi, get with each other and talk without anyone in the room? Like, okay, I love you, you love me, I'm going to be here. I'll sign a deal if you're going to be here or what have you. If it's not like that, then it's a big situation that Popovich may have coached his last game.
And it'll be his choice, though.
Most definitely.
It'll be his choice.
You have the option.
Right. And I personally, at this point, he's 70-something years old?
It's about 70.
Me personally, I walk away. Now, I will say that I never thought that he would win another title once Duncan retired. I knew it was done there. He's a very good coach. I can't give him one of the greatest of all times because when he had Duncan, one of the best players, you don't have one of the best players, one of the best teams that goes to the finals and then the next year you go out in the first round. I'm sorry. I don't buy that. With no major injuries, you don't do that. But he is a very damn good coach. Okay? And he's done all that he needs to do. What else does he have to accomplish? I retire. I walk away if it's me.
I agree.
Yeah, that's what I
just don't see it. I think it comes back for one more year.
Scott Brooks, you've been on a campaign to say he should be on the hot seat, if not on the hot seat, on the out seat.
Outhouse?
Outhouse, right. Is Scott Brooks gone from Washington, in your opinion?
If I was the GM, you talking about Washington?
I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Scott Brooks, I think you have to look hard and long between Scott Brooks and John Wall. One of them has to go. And I think that
Trade a coach.
I would probably retain Scott Brooks and trade John Wall.
The one thing that I will say about great teams, and on NBA TV, what would have happened, or something, I don't know and they was talking about Popovich in that season where Popovich almost lost his job. Doc Rivers was an announcer waiting in the wings. What would have happened if they would have fired Popovich and hired Doc Rivers? Would they have gone on to reach the accomplishments? Not saying that Doc Rivers is chopped liver, but staying with Popovich, having that continuity, staying with him, made them what they are.
Yes.
I think so often bad teams pull the trigger on coaches too soon.
Most definitely.
And here's the thing. Scott Brooks is not a bad coach.
Nah.
No, don't get it wrong out there. He's not a bad coach. I think that he has chemistry issues with his players. I don't think.
But they were there before he got there too.
Right. I don't think they generally get along, say, outside of work or maybe during practice. So it might be a situation where John Wall might be the one to go. I do have another who says no.
Okay.
Go ahead. Who says no?
So who says no? And tune in, Deep Hoop fans. Who says no? John Wall and Kelly Oubre to the Charlotte Hornets for Kemba Walker, Nicholas Batum, and a first-round draft pick. Who says no?
Oh, Washington would say no.
Because here's the thing. Washington needs a point guard, but they don't need John Wall. And I think that Kemba Walker's talent is strong enough to be the point guard, but not match some of the deficiency or some of the things that John Wall brings to the table that doesn't mesh well. So I think Kemba Walker will be good there. Nicholas Batum, if healthy, is the three guy that can come off the bench and spell Otto Porter. And then in the case with Charlotte, Michael Jordan has never had that star over there. And bringing John Wall back to North Carolina, where he's from, that could be the star that they're looking for. And maybe he turns his career around.
The lighting is off right here, but Theron, can you get Al on the camera, on the Facebook camera? Who says no?
Stand over there.
Who says no, Al? Do you say no to that?
I actually like the idea of John Wall going to Charlotte. So no, I wouldn't say no to that.
Okay, there we go. North Carolina, from North Carolina. All right, so we just talked about Scott Brooks. My last question, Tyronn Lue is coaching well, somewhat, right now. He's getting the most out of his team right now. Made the Tristan Thompson replacement, and, that ball from LeBron coming from the full court. Right. Is anything short of going to the NBA Finals going to cost him his job?
I think that as long as they get to the finals, he's okay. I think if they were somewhere to lose to Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think he would lose his job.
Toronto comes back.
Right, Toronto. Some crazy scenario. Toronto comes back from 0-3 down to win the series, or he loses to Boston some kind of way with the best player in the world, one of the best players that ever played the game. I think he would be in jeopardy. But maybe he was right. Maybe he takes his foot off the gas, or maybe he doesn't listen to his assistants in the regular season. But he didn't really listen in the Indiana series until the 7th game. But he is coaching circles around Dwayne Casey, because I just don't understand why Casey, when he saw them walking back to the backcourt, why he just let him, LeBron, do not let him. He is not beating me. I am not letting LeBron beat me. I'd almost be content with getting a wide, buzz the whole coverage breaking down and getting a wide open layup so I can get the ball back and shoot a shot to either tie or win the game. But you did none of that, and you let the clock run all the way out. LeBron bled it all the way down to 1, so if he hit it and won, which he did. If he missed it, it was going to overtime.
So, it was no lose situation.
Right.
Does Lue lose his job anything short of going to the NBA Finals?
When the season ends, it's not whether he loses his job or not. It's just how it's worded. Either he's terminated or we parted mutual ways.
So you think he's losing his job regardless, not unless they win the title?
I'm going to word it this way. He's not returning next year at all.
Even if they win the title?
Even if he wins the title. Even if he loses to Boston. Whether he loses the title, he's not coming back. I think he's done with coaching Cleveland. He had some health concerns, and it may not be worth it.
All right, so let's go with that. My last coaching carousel question. There are 3 jobs, well, Milwaukee job as well, but we'll use all 4. Milwaukee, and then the other 3 are all in the same division. Charlotte, Atlanta, and Orlando. Who goes where?
I think I would say Orlando. Orlando and Atlanta are going to pick young assistants to kind of grow with the team. I don't think Atlanta especially is concerned about winning next year. Maybe they might be looking for 2020 to win, to start putting the stuff together. Orlando is kind of a confounding situation because you went with 2 veterans. You went with Vogel. You went with Scott Skiles. So where do you go now? Do you go with an assistant, a young assistant to kind of grow with the program? Do you go with the guy, Nia Long's baby daddy?
What about Becky there?
That might be where it fits, because I don't know if she fits per se with a veteran team that you got in Milwaukee.
Right.
I think she fits better with a team. She grows, they grow all together. You kind of grow up all together. Orlando would probably be.
And Atlanta. When you think about Atlanta, with all the movements that they have going on, the progressive way that they think at the Hawks, and Atlanta is known for its being progressive. It is a very pro-choice and everything else. I can definitely see Atlanta pulling the trigger on her.
Yeah, I mentioned veterans in Milwaukee. Average age in Milwaukee is about 25 years old.
But when you think
about
about
superstar,
it's not a young team.
Right.
Listen, I don't even know who's interviewing for Orlando. And it's like the world's biggest secret right now. As far as Atlanta and Charlotte, I thought Jerry Stackhouse was going to go to Charlotte. I do agree they're going to go with a young person, someone first-year opportunity in Atlanta. And I thought they'd probably do the same thing with Orlando. But I have to ask y'all this, and maybe you will get to it.
That was my thing.
Why is Billy Donovan with a job? I mean, and why is OKC holding on to Billy Donovan? Because I got another who says no.
Go ahead. Give me who says no.
Who says no? A first-round draft pick to the LA Clippers for Doc Rivers. Who says no?
Doc Rivers probably says no. Because he is a...
Why would he say no?
Because he is a... What I perceive of Doc Rivers is he is a big city, big headline, big lights coach. I don't think
he started with Orlando.
Okay, but yeah, he started with Orlando. But think about it. You go from Boston.
I think Doc is one that wants to win.
Boston to L.A.
If Paul George opts in, you can't trade Melo. There's only one team that you could possibly trade Melo to, and that's the Houston for Ryan Anderson. So, but if Paul George opts in and you coming back with the big three, you can't come back with Donovan. Again, Doc Rivers
they are though.
Why? Doc Rivers is under contract. I'll offer a first-round pick because they ain't going to need the first-round pick and try to get Doc Rivers to come to OKC. Because you need a coach of that kind of ethics and background that can get to Westbrook and say, slow it down. I mean, you get speeding tickets. You get speeding tickets when you're driving 100 miles an hour.
Point guard,
slow it down, tone it down.
NBA experience,
right,
title.
And work with your players. And he will get the most of that big three.
And he was able to work with a difficult player in Rondo.
Yes. If I'm OKC management, that's what I'm doing before the opt-out periods start coming up with Paul George and others.
Very quickly, before we get to our closing comments and our predictions, the Phoenix Suns went with Igor, whatever his name is, assistant coach at Utah. It was on no one's radar, from a press standpoint. I heard, what's his name, David Griffin on NBA radio talking about, Igor and what he did, the respect he has for him. But really, he was on no one's radar. Did Phoenix, remember during the season, I blasted Phoenix for firing Earl Watson. After like 5, 6 games, whatever it was, 3 games. Did they make a good decision? Were they shrewd? Or was this another foolish decision by Phoenix?
Well, you know what? It's going to go either way. It's going to either look like it's foolish when we see the results of it, or it's going to look like a shrewd move. I mean, I don't know nothing about the guy.
I think it was just budget related.
Right now, Utah assistant coaches' stocks might be up because of the success that the team has had, from what I understand.
But why wouldn't Boston's coaches be in high regard?
I understand that he's relatable to the overseas players, and you got the kid that's coming out from overseas that's supposed to be the next this and that. I think his name is Donick. So maybe they're bringing him in to bring that kid in, to work with that kid, and they may be looking to build around that kid and Devin Booker. So they may have a game plan. I'm just going to wait to see how this plays out.
But they kind of all over.
I like the move, personally, from a standpoint that this guy was on nobody's radar, and that if it works out, it's kind of a successful move. If it doesn't work out, they just taking the same route as Atlanta by going with somebody.
But you know what? If that would be the case, if they haven't made bad move after bad move after bad move. When they said, what was it that they said?
Well, Dave Fizdale turned it down.
So they made him an offer.
They gave him the job. He actually turned it down.
Okay.
He wanted to be in New York.
Is Mark Jackson blackball? That's my last coaching question.
Yes.
When he didn't get the New York Knicks job,
he's the Kaepernick of basketball.
Yeah, he's on his knees. He's on the knee. He's taking a knee.
Yeah,
He's taking a knee. All right, we need to set up for the closing comments quickly. What are your predictions for the rest of the playoffs? Who's winning? Who's going to be playing in the Eastern Conference Finals? I think this is easy. Who's going to be playing in the Western Conference Final? Who's going to be playing in the Finals? Who wins?
Well, it's Boston and Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals. Before the series started, I had Golden State and Utah going into the Western Conference Final, and I'm still going to stick by that. I don't know what the score is tonight, but I'm still going to stick with that, and I think that we may be seeing a fourth consecutive Cleveland and Golden State. I didn't want to see it. You couldn't tell me during the season we was going to see this. I just think that as much preparation Brad Stevens going to have, and as well Boston's going to be prepared, I just don't think Boston has an offensive player that can give anything close to what LeBron is doing. And I think Cleveland will get past Boston, and Golden State wins another championship.
Tim?
I think, it's 3-0, 3-0. So I think it'll be Boston and Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals. Boston has home court advantage like last year, but they don't have IT. Cleveland doesn't have Kyrie, but I think it'll be the same result. Cleveland in 5. In the Western Conference Finals, I think it'll be Houston and Golden State. And I predict Houston to win over Golden State in 7 thrilling games. Finals, I say Houston and Cleveland, and say Houston wins the whole thing.
All right, let me say very quickly. Boston, Cleveland is what I see in the Eastern Conference Finals. I see Boston winning. I
hope you're right.
I think a great team that plays together is better than a great player. They are a great team, well coached, and I think a team concept will beat a great player, one great player. And then I see Golden State and Houston, but here's where it gets controversial. I still see Golden State beating Boston. But as I said when Boston went up against Philly, everybody was saying, I'm like, you better watch out for Boston. They're dangerous. I don't know the statistics, and we'll check this afterwards. I think Brad Stevens has a winning record against Steve Kerr. He knows how to prepare for that team. I pick Golden State, but a Golden State in 7, and we'll be right back. Well, this is our favorite part of the show. Not because Tim is not in it. Not because Tim is not in it, but it's our favorite part of the show, even when Tim was doing it when we were doing the audio podcast. We call it the closing comments. Ron, what say you?
My closing comments is going to center around actually one of my favorite players in the league, and that's Russell Westbrook. Westbrook can play on my team anytime. I think he's one of the better players in the game. What I like most about him is that he doesn't take a second off on the game. He's put together 2 back-to-back years that's been historic. He's the only player in history to average a triple-double 2 years in a row. Last year when he did it, it was phenomenal. He was playing with a bunch of guys that no one expected him to do well. He had a chip on his shoulder. Kevin Durant had just left, and he wanted to show the basketball world that he can own his own team, or he can run his own team, I should say. And he did just that. He made it to the playoffs, and it was phenomenal. But the management team felt like he needed some help. And they made a trade to bring in Paul George that you cannot disagree with. Although Victor Oladipo, maybe most improved player of the year, and Sabonis had a coming out party, and Indiana looked strong, it was the move to make. And then out of nowhere, they trade their best bench player to get Carmelo Anthony. We said it on this show. I thought they'd be going to the Western Conference Finals. Whether Billy Donovan did a poor job or not, as the point guard of this team, Westbrook should have had the vision to make adjustments as a player. Instead of looking for those players to adjust to him, he should have made the adjustments to adjust to them. Carmelo is not the player he once was. It's not that bad of a drop-off, but he's not the player he once was. He should have recognized that. I think that the best way to play Carmelo was to go to him in the post early on in the first quarter. get him into the game, get a rhythm going, so that when you do pass it out to him in the third quarter and fourth quarter, he can hit an open shot. But no, Westbrook continued to run up and down the court at 200 miles an hour. Only one up the court. Maybe Brewer or Robinson, when he was healthy, was up there first. But guess what? When you're up the court with them, you up the court with your worst scoring options. Why not play within the two guys that was traded there to give you some kind of help or relief? And somewhat you alienated them. Paul George had to go one-on-one to score his baskets. This is not smart basketball, Westbrook. You're smarter than that, you're better than that, and you are one of the game's elite players. But if you continue to play like that, all you're going to do or be for the OKC owners and management is a cash cow. Play smart, be smarter. If this team comes back next year, you still will be one of the favorites to go deep in the playoffs. But it starts with you being smarter. Those are my closing comments.
You know, Rob, I can't help but to think of one thing when you say that. Yeah, Russell Westbrook has to change his game. He's got to alter his game to play to the players that he has around him. And I think about what Chuck Daly told Isaiah Thomas.
Yes.
He says, you can score anytime you want. We know that. But for this team, we need you to bring down your scoring and get into distributing. I'll let you know when you have the green light to score.
Yes.
But for right now, this is what we need you to do. Yes. They won 2 titles.
And if Chuck Daly was coaching this team, they'd be playing right now.
Exactly. And that's why they do need a coach that I think Donovan just...
Too soft.
Yeah, I watched Donovan in his closing press conference when they lost. And he didn't want to complain about the refs. He didn't want to call out Carmelo. He didn't want to call out Westbrook for shooting 43 shots. He kept it Melba toast the whole time. And at some point, you need a coach that's going to have a little fire.
Right.
And that's going to call you and make you accountable.
Right.
And I don't think that's the coach that they have right now. And I'm like you. I love Donovan. You know I was a Donovan fan. It's time for Donovan to go. But those were dope. Dope closing comments. My closing comments deal with coaching. And I said it earlier. Brad Stevens is an unbelievable coach. He's on his way. If he can continue to do what he's doing and, of course, win titles, maybe being one of the best coaches of all time. And then, I know you could say, well, he coached against Joe Prunty, and Brett Brown is not showing himself to be great in the first 2 rounds. But I want you to think about this. Every time Brad Stevens steps on the court, his team is prepared.
Yes.
Every time Brad Stevens steps on the court, he has a game plan.
Yes.
He understands the strengths and the weaknesses of the other team. He knew that Ben Simmons doesn't have a jump shot, so he's playing him that way. You watch his defense is aggressive. They move their feet, they have lateral movement, and they get up under you. Or everybody's trying to shoot threes, and what he's doing is saying, I'm not going to give you the 3. Now, my question, as I give Brad Stevens kudos, I have to ask Brett Brown, what are you doing? You have Embiid. They're taking away your threes. Why aren't you putting Embiid in the post and saying, I don't want to see you at the top of the key, I don't want to see you at the elbow, I want to see you down in the post, and we're going to beat you that way.
Give us a Hakeem-like
performance. Get Hartford in foul trouble. Get them in foul trouble. They're not doing it. So Brad hasn't had to make an adjustment.
No.
Brad is saying, the playoffs is supposed to be about adjustments. I don't need to adjust because you keep trying to do the same thing and we just keep winning.
Let's just keep doing the
same thing. So this is a kudos to Brad Stevens. Brad, let me tell you something. I grew up a Knick fan. Then I became a Philly fan. And I'm a Laker fan. 3 teams that are not supposed to like the Boston Celtics. Okay? And then you add Detroit Pistons when Isaiah Thomas was there. I was a Detroit Piston fan. I'm not supposed to like the Boston Celtics, period. And coming into this season, I despise the Boston Celtics. I even gave you kudos, but I did not say anything good about Boston. But then y'all hired You brought on Kyrie, and I love Kyrie. But I have to say this. Forget Kyrie. Whether Kyrie stays or goes, you, my friend, are one of the best coaches these eyes have ever seen. Keep doing what you're doing. I wish that you can go to the Lakers and do it or the Knicks and do it, but keep doing what you're doing because you're doing a damn good job. I am the minister.
And I'm Rob.
And for Tim Brayboy, this is Deep Hoops. Just remember, we're not experts, but we're passionate fans talking about the game we love. Even when we're dressed in Dallas Cowboy uniforms, we're about basketball. Peace.